North Country homelessness, which is mostly rural homelessness, doesn't look a lot like city homelessness. It's people couch surfing or double bunking at a relative's. It's living rough in the woods. But in the North Country's bigger places, there are people living on the streets, under bridges, city homelessness. In Watertown, there's no central place to house these people, leaving them exposed and with nowhere to go. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from the St. Lawrence County Community Development Program, now accepting applications for the Head Start program to prepare children ages 3 to 5 for school. Online at slccdp.org/head-start.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, May 7th. First up, Governor Kathy Hochul is apologizing for a remark she made during a live interview Monday in California. The Democrat was talking about providing avenues for communities of color to access emerging artificial intelligence technologies as a means to address social inequality. And she said this.
Right now we have, young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenges.
Her comment about black kids who don't know what a computer is quickly spread on social media, with many lawmakers rejecting the characterization. Later in the day, Hochul apologized and said she regretted misspeaking. Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, a Bronx Democrat who's black, said the words were inartful and hurtful, but added he doesn't believe that's, quote, where her heart is. New York State has seen a surge in homelessness over the past several years, including in the North Country. In Jefferson County alone, hundreds of people don't have a stable place to live, and most of them are in Watertown. A number of temporary shelters have opened and closed there over the past few years, but the city still doesn't have a permanent shelter. Recently, a group of advocates in Watertown held a demonstration to raise awareness about local homelessness. Lucy Grindon has our story.
The demonstrators spent 5 days on a sidewalk in downtown Watertown, outside the Northern Regional Center for Independent Living. That's an advocacy group and resource center for people with disabilities. They were trying to get people to notice and think about local homelessness. They pitched a tent, carried blankets, and waved cardboard signs at passing cars.
Mine says homelessness is not a crime.
That's Aaron Gulliher. There's a case before the Supreme Court right now about an Oregon law that criminalizes camping on public property. The sign is a reference to that. But Gulliher said the main point of the demonstration was to raise awareness about homelessness in Watertown. She said it's more common than some realize and can happen to anyone.
A lot of us are one paycheck or one hospitalization away from homelessness. We live paycheck to paycheck. So if you're not getting paid, you could end up in that situation.
That's exactly what happened to Christy Graves. She's standing in the sun with a cardboard sign, her hair piled in a loose bun. About 4 years ago, Graves lost her job when the company she worked for went overseas. Then both of her roommates moved out.
It just was the perfect storm. So within 5 days of my rent not being paid that September, my landlord put a 14-day on my door, which had a court appearance at the end of the 14 days. And from then I had 30 days to get out.
She'd lost her stability, and she had nowhere to go for help. There was no shelter in Watertown. Graves had previously been addicted to drugs, but she'd gotten clean in her early 30s. When she was evicted, she'd been sober for 13 years.
I don't want to say that I wanted to use, but I felt ashamed that I found myself homeless at that stage in my life. So there was that struggle. And I just wanted to not feel some of the things I was feeling.
Without any safety net, her situation could have gotten a lot worse. But then Graves got lucky. She ran into a relative she hadn't seen in a while.
My eyes get pretty puffy when I cry, and you can tell if I've been crying, even if it's the next morning. And when I ran into my niece in the store that day, she could tell that something, was going on with me. And we talked, and she said, oh, no, you have to come stay with me.
After a few months, Graves was able to find a new job as a hostess at Texas Roadhouse. Soon, she was moving into her own new place. Today, she works at the Northern Regional Center for Independent Living. She helped organize the homelessness demonstration on the sidewalk. Inside, her office door is covered in stickers. They say things like "seize the awkward" and "you are stronger than you think." She has 3 young grandchildren she loves, and she really likes her work. But she worries about other people like her who are struggling with homelessness right now. With nowhere to go for shelter or help, they're really isolated, and that's how she felt.
I know how shameful I felt for me, but I would like to see some of the stigma with that erased so that they don't have to, suffer in silence because of the shame that they feel.
She says the city not having a shelter contributes to that sense of shame because it sends a message that homelessness doesn't matter.
People think that their problems aren't worthy of city council, and I want to say that you are, and I want our town to come up with a solution so that other people don't feel that.
She wants people to put more pressure on the city council to do something now. Watertown City Councilman Cliff Olney agrees. He says unhoused people often go unseen here.
There are many people in Watertown who are homeless. We estimated about 297 people. And they're not known about. They're in places like along the riverbank, encamped in the caves under the city, in abandoned houses that, they find a place to get in and they stay there to get out of the cold. But because they're out of sight doesn't mean they're not there, and we need a program that can reach out to them.
Olney says people need a place to go for help, and not just with shelter, but also with other problems that contribute to homelessness, like drug addiction and mental health issues.
Once we create the solution, you're going to find more people that are not known to come forward to say, oh, they have a solution, maybe they can help me.
There are some potential solutions in the works. In the short term, Olney's planning to ask the city council to set aside money for emergency hotel costs for when people become homeless on a weekend and can't go to social services for help. And the nonprofit group Neighbors of Watertown recently got a $13 million state grant to build 63 affordable housing units, including 31 for people experiencing homelessness. The project's also supposed to have mental health and drug treatment programs, but it hasn't even broken ground yet. So right now, there is no official shelter in Watertown. There was a seasonal warming center with beds at the Salvation Army, but it shut down on the last day of April. On a recent afternoon, Shannon Michael Ayers stopped by there for a free lunch. He says he stayed at the warming center for about a month and a half this winter, and there weren't always enough beds for everyone.
They were sleeping on the floor because they didn't have a bed for them. That's how many people there were here.
And the people staying here now, where will they go when this place closes in the spring?
Well, a lot of people are... Department of Social Services have to start listening.
Christy Graves, who put together the homelessness demonstration, says that having a shelter would help people feel that they matter to the community.
I think it just lets people know that other people care. And when your basic needs are just barely met, knowing somebody is out there caring about you is a big deal. When you can't find that care for yourself.
The need for shelter isn't going away. Now that the warming center's closed for the season, people will have to find somewhere else to sleep. Lucy Grindon, North Country Public Radio, Watertown.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by the Saranac Project of Saranac Lake and Mark Corey of Watertown. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.